about that. Good morning, friends. Buenos dias, amigas y amigas, and welcome, bienvenidos, to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Stony Brook. My name is Laura Lesh, and I am so happy to be serving as your worship associate this morning with our interim minister, Pastor Madelyn Campbell, and fellow worship associate, June Cerveni, as we explore the proposed revisions to our Unitarian Universalist purposes and principles. I want to offer a special welcome to any of you who are visiting or are here with us for the first time today. We are delighted to have you here with us, and we look forward to getting to know you. Please plan to stay following the service and join us as our guests for coffee hour, where you'll find lots of friendly folks to answer any questions you may have. I have two brief announcements for you. First of all, we have an upcoming community office hours session. Come and meet with Pastor Madelyn for coffee and a chat at the Bean of Patchogue, which is at 62 West Main Street, Patchogue, on Friday, January 27th from 10:30 until noon. So make a note of it. That should be really a fun thing to do. And also, regarding our UUFSB timeline, what is our story? How did we get here? Come to the fellowship on Saturday, January 28th, between 1 and 3 o'clock to help start putting together the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship at Stony Brook story on a timeline. Bring photos if you have them, and let's see what the past will teach us.
Good morning. It's so wonderful to see so many of you here this morning. Let us, all of us, enter into this space made holy by our presence. Let us enter into this hour made holy by our intention. As a covenanted community, let us enter in and let us worship together.
Joel Diamond will come forward to light our chalice this morning as I read our chalice lighting words. The flaming chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. We kindle the flame of our faith in the cup of our covenant. Our covenant nourishes the fire of our commitment, that it may guide our way. I invite you to rise, embody your spirit, and join in singing our first hymn, hymn number 323, Break Not the Circle. Peter will play it all the way through for us, so we'll be familiar with the melody, and then we'll give it a go.
It is so good to see all of you here this morning. Did anybody here make a New Year's resolution? Some, yes, I see some. Well, that's a kind of promise to ourselves. This is a story about Nikki and promises that they made. Is it easy to keep New Year's resolutions? No. Well, let's see if Nikki can keep their promise. Nikki was in the 3rd grade and had some chores to do because they were getting big, and went to school most days and had friends And Nikki did most of the things that third graders do. But Nikki had some trouble keeping promises. One day, Nikki was out at the mall with their mom, and there was Nikki's favorite toy store. And right in the window of that toy store was a toy Nikki had seen on TV. And Nikki's friend Jules, 2 blocks over and around the corner, Nikki's friend Jules had it. Jules just got it. And it looked so cool, and Nikki wanted it so badly. And Nikki turned to their mom and said, "Please, Mom, please, please, please let me have this toy. I promise I'll never ask for anything ever again. I promise." I wonder if anybody here has ever said that. The thing is, Nikki's mom could tell how much Nikki wanted this toy. And she was thinking about getting it for Nikki anyway, and so she got the toy for Nikki. Well, it wasn't but 2 days later when Nikki was playing with this wonderful toy, and Mom said, "Nikki, isn't it your job to empty the dishwasher? I need to do some other dishes, and isn't that your job?" And Nikki said, "Oh, Mom, but I'm having so much fun with my new toy. Please, Mom, please, just this one time, would you do it for me? Or better yet, get Lisa to do it, my sister. And I promise, if you know what I'm going to say, you can say it with me. I will never ask for anything again." Well, wasn't it just next week when Nikki's other friend, David's dog, had some puppies. And they were giving the puppies away. Giving them away! You didn't even have to buy one. And Nikki had wanted a puppy for a long, long time. And Nikki went to Mom and said, "Mom, please, can we have one of the puppies? If we get this puppy, I will take care of it and do all the things that the puppy needs all the time, and I will never ask for anything again." And at this point, Nikki's mom said to Nikki, "Nikki, sweetheart, I love you very much, and no matter what, I will always love you. There is nothing you can do to make me not love you. But I have noticed that you make these promises all the time that you will never ask for anything again, and that's just a promise you cannot keep, is it?" And Nikki said, "Well, no, but I mean it when I say it." And Mom said, "I know you do. But once you make a promise, you're supposed to mean it all the time after that." So let's talk about this puppy. First, you said you'll never ask for anything again. Is that true? Really, really true in your heart, true? And Nikki said, "Well, no." And Nikki's mom said, "And you promised you would do every single thing that the puppy needs without help from anybody else." Do you think that's realistic? Do you think that you're going to take it on all the walks and take the puppy to the vet and do all the feeding and grooming and everything all by yourself? And Nikki said, I want to. And Mom said, I know you want to. But do you think that's what's going to happen? And Nikki said, well, probably not. And Mom said, you know, puppies are a lot of work for everybody. And you haven't had a dog yet at all. So maybe what we need to do is start with an older dog who isn't so much work. And maybe we need to have a family meeting and all talk about what it would be like if we have a dog. And so what do you think of that? And Nikki said, but the puppies are so cute. And Mom said, I know, but puppies grow up into being big dogs. And Nikki said, okay. And so everybody sat down together and talked about what was realistic and what they thought they could do and couldn't do. And sometime later, when everyone had agreed and they all knew what was expected of each other, they went to the shelter. And what do you think they got at the shelter? A dog. Not a parakeet, but they got a dog. And they felt really good about making the decisions together and about making promises that they could keep. And by the way, Nikki continued to ask for things, but stopped saying, I promise I will never ask for anything ever again. Now, we have so many children here this morning. I'm so happy to see all of you. And many of the children and the teachers are going to head off to the classrooms now as we sing the Reeb Children's Benediction. The words are in the back cover of both of your hymnals.
As we enter into our time of shared meditation, following the spoken words, we will observe 1 minute of silence, followed by meditation and song. And our song today will be hymn number 123, Spirit of Life, in your gray hymnal. Our spoken meditation this morning is taken from Reverend Leslie Takahashi and appears on the UUA Commission on Appraisal 2021 report, Unlocking the Power of Covenant. All that we have ever loved and all that we will ever have been stands with us on the brink of all that we aspire to create: a deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a greater generosity of spirit, a deeper joy in this life we share. reading this morning is the draft of the proposed language for our UUA covenant, written by the UUA Article 2 Study Commission. And UUA, for those of you who may not know, is what we use to refer to the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations. This language goes along with the diagram found on the front cover of your order of service, or if you're joining us on the live stream, on the slide that is being shown now. Section C 2.1, Purposes. The Unitarian Universalist Association shall devote its resources to and exercise its organizational powers for religious, educational, and humanitarian purposes. Its primary purposes are to equip congregations for vital ministry, to support and train leaders, both lay and professional, to heal historic inequities, and to advance our Unitarian Universalist values in the world. We will transform the world by our liberating love.
Section C 2.2, Values and Covenant. Love is the enduring force that holds us together. As Unitarian Universalists in religious community, we covenant congregation to congregation and through our association to support and assist each other in engaging our ministries. We draw from our heritage of freedom and reason, hope and courage, but building on the foundation of love. Love inspires and powers the passion with which we embody our values. Inseparable from one another, these shared values are
justice. We work to be diverse, multicultural, beloved communities where all people thrive. We covenant to dismantle racism and all forms of oppression within individuals and our institutions. We are accountable to each other for this work.
Generosity. We cultivate a spirit of gratitude and hope. We covenant to freely share our faith, presence, and resources. Compassionate generosity connects us one to another in relationships of mutuality.
Evolution. We adapt to the changing world. We covenant to collectively transform and grow spiritually and ethically. Evolution is fundamental to life and to our Unitarian Universalist heritages, never complete and never perfect.
Pluralism. We celebrate that we are all sacred beings, diverse in culture, theology, and experience. We covenant to learn from one another and openly explore the depth and breadth of our many wisdoms. We embrace our differences and commonalities with love, curiosity, and respect.
Equity. We declare that every person has the right to flourish with dignity and worthiness. We covenant to use our time, wisdom, attention, and money to build and sustain a fully inclusive and accessible community of communities.
Interdependence. We honor the sacred interdependent web of all existence. With humility, we understand our place in the web. We covenant to care for and respect the earth and all beings by fostering relationships of mutuality. We work to repair the bonds which we have broken.
Section C 2.3, Inspirations. As Unitarian Universalists, we draw upon and are inspired by the full depth and breadth of sacred understandings as experienced by humanity. Grateful for the religious lineages we inherit and the pluralism which enriches our faith, we are called to ever deepen and expand our wisdom.
Section C 2.4, Inclusion. Systems of power, privilege, and oppression have traditionally created barriers for persons and groups with particular identities, ages, abilities, and histories. We pledge to replace such barriers with ever-widening circles of solidarity and mutual respect. We strive to be an association of congregations that truly welcomes all persons who share our values. We commit to structuring congregational and associational life in ways that empower and enhance everyone's participation.
Section C 2.5, Freedom of Belief. Nothing herein shall be deemed to infringe upon the individual freedom of belief which is inherent in the Unitarian Universalist heritages, or to conflict with any statement of purpose, covenant, or bond of union used by any congregation, unless such is used as a creedal test. In expressing our beliefs, we do so in the spirit of love, in ways that further beloved community.
Wow, huh? That's very different from our current covenant, yeah? But you know, our current covenant is very different from earlier covenants. We're a covenantal faith. What does that mean? We're covenantal rather than creedal. We agree to be together in a community and to call one another back into covenant when we have broken covenant with one another. But we have no creed. We have no test of belief. So our covenant is central to who we are. And this is, we're talking about language for our Unitarian Universalist Association covenant. We have a covenant for the congregation, and many congregations do. We have other covenants within the congregation. Did you know our staff has a covenant here? We have a staff covenant. And but this is our Unitarian Universalist Association covenant. This is an older covenant from the UUA. In accordance with these corporate purposes, the members of the Unitarian Universalist Association, dedicated to the principles of a free faith, unite in seeking to strengthen one another in a free and disciplined search for truth as the foundation of our religious fellowship, to cherish and spread the universal truths taught by the great prophets and teachers of humanity in every age and tradition, immemorially summarized in the Judeo-Christian heritage as love to God and love to man, to affirm, defend, and promote the supreme worth of every human personality, the dignity of man, and the use of the democratic method in human relationships, to implement our vision of one world by striving for a world community founded on ideals of brotherhood, justice, and peace, to serve the needs of member churches and fellowships, to organize new churches and fellowships, and to extend and strengthen liberal religion, to encourage cooperation with men of goodwill in every land. Wow, that's a lot of men, especially since there's use of humanity and humankind in there. It leads me to believe that we women and non-binary folk just weren't part of the covenant. Does it leave anybody else feeling that way? Yeah, some folks. And so we changed it. Our UUA bylaws actually require us to revisit our covenant every 15 years. because it is a living covenant, it is a living document, it is a living divine promise to one another, a living sacred promise. And we need to revisit it every 15 years at least, and we were late, really late this time, to make sure that it's still the promises we can make to one another. Now, in the front of your hymnal, in the front matter, but before the hymns, about one page before the hymns, you can see our current covenant. And you can tell that these are old hymnals because it ends, it has the 5 sources of faith. It's missing the 6th source of faith that we added sometime in the 90s. So we have made changes. But this is a more drastic change than we've had in a while. And it can take a little time to get used to this proposed language and see what we think about it. Now I'm going to read to you from an update from the Article 2 Commission. This is the UUA Commission that was tasked with looking at the language for the covenant and creating this beautiful new document. And what do you think of this gorgeous picture, this gorgeous image that shows us the interdependent? Well, I'll get back to this in a minute. Article 2 of our UUA bylaws states our purposes, principles, and sources of inspiration. For many religious institutions, the equivalent of Article 2 would be regarded as a brief statement of belief. However, as ours is a living tradition, we commit ourselves to regularly revisiting our principles and purposes to ensure that they remain relevant. Since new occasions teach us new things, we try to continually examine these statements to see what is most important and what might be missing. A few years back, our General Assembly committed us to working towards being an anti-racist, anti-oppression, and multicultural association. Amen for that? Or yeah? Yeah? Like that's a good goal, right? Okay. Continuing reading from the statement from the Commission. Some events have caused UUs to explore more deeply whatever cultural factors may have kept us from fully living up to these aims. We have grown in our awareness of how systematic oppressions lingering in our culture may have affected us. Many believe that the language of Article 2 does not reflect these learnings, the current language of Article 2. Our UUA board believes we need an Article 2 that leads us into the future. A study commission was thus formed and charged as follows. The Article 2 Study Commission is hereby charged to review Article 2 of our UUA bylaws and propose any revisions that will enable our UUA, our member congregations, and our covenanted communities to be a relevant and powerful force for spiritual and moral growth, healing, and justice. Let me repeat that. To be a relevant and powerful force for moral growth, healing, and justice. Do you want to be a relevant force for spiritual and moral growth, healing, and justice? No, what? Do you want to be a relevant force for spiritual and moral growth, healing, and justice? Okay. Proposed changes should articulate core UU theological values. The board believes that the one core theological value shared widely among UUs is love. Love, right in the center of the graphic. Dr. Cornel West says that justice is what love looks like in public. Justice is what love looks like in public. Our commitment to personal, institutional, and cultural change rooted in anti-oppression, anti-racism, and multiculturalism values and practices is love in action and should be centered in any revision of Article 2. So that was the charge. The commission continues. The first thing you will notice about this new proposal is that the presentation has been changed dramatically. Did you notice that? Yeah. Some will find this upsetting, and some will find it refreshing. In either case, I suggest you read it carefully a few times to get past that initial reaction. A key element of the new presentation with no numbered lists, is the idea that all of the values are related. And this is represented graphically on the cover of your order of worship. Looking at any one by itself may be distorted, and they are all based on love. For my part, I like the new Article 2. And I'm sorry, I don't know whose my part it is. I'm not sure who the author was. Oh, Dave wrote that. Okay, sorry. This is from Dave, not the commission. This is from Dave Tarbell. The Article 2 Commission has held a number of webinars to get feedback, and they solicited feedback through last month. This month, they are deciding on any additional editing. There will be a series of mini-assemblies starting in May where amendments may be offered. At this year's General Assembly, the then final wording will be presented for an up or down vote. If voted up, it will go on the agenda for next year's General Assembly, where a 2/3 yes vote will put it into our bylaws. So we need to have our delegates in place by April this year in order to take our part in this process. So that's from Dave Tarbell, who wrote that. My apologies, I attributed that initially to the commission. The General Assembly is the work of our association. It's the highest body because we're congregational in our polity. And this is important work, so this is the work that we have to do now. I love this new language, and I love this graphic, but it's way different. Some of us, I recognize, are much more comfortable with lists, having lists of things. But let me tell you, at our best, at our absolute best, we take our current covenant to heart, we live out all of those principles, we respect all of our sources of faith, and we recognize that the list that we have currently, that those principles are not about my personal freedoms and my rights, but about how I need to stop and pause and make sure that other people, that we all have those rights, right? The inherent worth and dignity of every person is not about I can do what I want, but rather I need to remember that you have inherent worth and dignity, and everyone else I meet has inherent worth and dignity, and I need to respect that. But beloveds, we're not always at our best, are we? We are not. Just like Nikki in our story this morning, sometimes we make promises, lofty promises that we want to keep, but we're not really good at it. And I've seen us not at our best. Turn those current principles and purposes around to make it, you can't do that to me because it's all about me, because of my inherent worth and dignity. Oh, that's so sad. This new graphic, the new language and this new graphic, reminds us that everything is interconnected and centered on love. We can do nothing without love. It is at the center of all we do. Remember, if you were here in December, I talked about agape love, that perfect love for one another that we strive for. And if we can't quite get to agape, at least philia love, that familial, that deep love of siblings. And that's what this is centered on. And beloveds, I am so excited. Now, we have been asked by the Commission to read it a few times, to read it and then to examine our initial reactions to that, and to ask ourselves some questions, and then read it 2 more times. Maybe some of you have had a chance to read it online or in print somewhere. Let me see, who's had a chance to read it before today? A handful of you. Okay, good. Yay, yay. And so we're going to have a chance to talk about that now. Now, we're not going to have a huge discussion from everybody, but I'm going to ask Laura and June some questions about this. And then during coffee hour, I invite the rest of you to have this conversation with one another. What do you think about it? So, when you first saw this draft, how did it strike you? I'm giving it to Laura first because Laura's closest to me.
Well, let me first disclose that my perspective may not be the same as most of you, because I grew up without any religious identity. And I came to Unitarian Universalism as a young adult because the 7 principles spoke to me. They were something that I could believe in and did believe in. And I was searching for a religious identity for my young children at the time, with teaching values that I wouldn't be hypocritical about. So I became a Unitarian Universalist based on the 7 principles. And when I saw this change, I shouldn't have been surprised, because I've been attending the monthly 8th Principle Learning Community meetings, which is a national Zoom gathering facilitated by Paula Cole-Jones, who was one of the co-authors of the 8th Principle that we have already, this congregation has already adopted. So I've been aware of how these changes have evolved and been in the making. But when I actually saw what the commission came up with, I was, to be honest, I was somewhat off-put. And I'm guessing that some of you may be off-put as well at the idea of letting go of our list of 7 principles. I just wanted to see the 8th principle somehow integrated. But that's really what they have done. Anyway, at best, I would say I was unsettled.
You were unsettled. Okay, how about you, June?
Yeah. I come from a completely different background than Laura, to Unitarian Universalism. I was raised Roman Catholic, so there were plenty of things that I was supposed to be believing in. And when I reached the point where every Sunday we would recite the Nicene Creed, and I would say, I don't believe in that. Well, I don't actually believe in that either. And then I don't believe in that one. So I realized I needed to do something different. And at that point, I was a librarian, so I went to the library and got down a very large, red, thick reference book called Religions of the United States. Yes, I did. And then I did the research, and then I came to a UU fellowship. And that was in the early 80s, so about 43 years ago. And so I have to say that the 7 principles were the main formulation of what I came to learn as Unitarian Universalism, because they were something that I actually could assent to and believe in. And so when I first read the new draft, my thought was, yikes, this is so different. It is disconcerting. And so the other thing is that the other thing that I have been really learned as a Unitarian Universalist is that we are, in fact, a living tradition, and that for us, revelation is not sealed. There are new ways to look at everything. So I had to take it back a deep breath and start over and reread some more.
So I'm going to ask you now, what do you think of it now?
Well, it's taken me more than 2 readings. I've really been rereading and ruminating over this for the past couple of months. And I really have come to see it as a new perspective on our 7 principles. Each principle is rephrased as a value and as an outgrowth of love. And the 8th principle is certainly here and presented in a manner that's consistent with the other values under the value of justice. I also think the descriptions of generosity and equity and evolution offer a deeper description, and the others too, offer a deeper description of our principles than what we had before with just the list. I had some trouble, I have to say, with the word evolution. I think evolution is a word that's normally used in a scientific way and is controversial in itself in this country. But I've come to understand that what the value evolution is describing is spiritual growth and development. And I tried to come up with a better word to capture that value that I could submit to the commission when they were considering all of our opinions on this for the editing that they're doing this month. And I really couldn't come up with a better term myself. So I've come to appreciate that term as being very all-encompassing and significant for our values. Overall, I think that this format allows for a deeper and action-oriented description of each principle, and as such, I feel that it is more illuminating and it's more inspiring as a statement of our faith. And just as the 7 principles brought me to Unitarian Universalism 35 years ago, I think this new and more explicit way of presenting our values may speak to younger people of more diverse backgrounds going forward.
Thank you. How about you, June? What do you think of it now?
Well, I agree with pretty much everything that Laura has said, but it's been my experience also. But I have to say that one of the values that I really enjoy the reformatting or refreshing of language on is pluralism. One of the things that has been most meaningful to me about being Unitarian Universalist is that it has meant to me that it has been an open doorway for me to explore religious traditions that are not the ones that I grew up in, but covered a wide variety of religious traditions. So, like several years ago when I was spending some time exploring Islam, it was obvious to me that our 6 sources did not really include this 3rd Abrahamic faith, and in fact, a lot of other wisdom traditions as well. So I think that underneath this value of pluralism, they have managed to incorporate what we kind of aimed to do with the 6 sources, but made it more universally inclusive, which I really, really appreciate. I think it's a much better formulation of where we are. And also their inclusion of cultural diversity as a form of pluralism is something that did not really appear in the original 7 principles, and it's a valuable thing for us to aspire to. Another one of the values that I really value their phrasing on is interdependence. Our 7th principle was the interdependence web of all existence of which we are a part. And I think there are many UUs who over the years have kind of thought of this like, well, that's the ecology thing. But it is, and it's more. And the new formulation kind of expresses that it's more, not just the interdependent web of the natural world and of all life, but also the interdependence of all peoples on each other, and the need to bind up the broken both in the natural world and in that, that world of all of us people who are interdependent on each other.
So what's your favorite part?
Well, I would have to say that my favorite thing about this new proposal is the explicit call to action. You know, our 7 principles implied that we would act on them, but this is really full of verbs. It's an action-oriented covenant that calls us to live what we are, or to try to live, to aspire to live, up to the values that we profess are central to our faith. So I would have to say that that's my favorite thing about this.
I would say that my favorite thing about this formulation is the primacy of love as a core value from which everything else springs. There are many fellowships and churches who say, as part of their affirmation, love is the spirit of this fellowship and service is its law. And I believe that this formulation of our faith actually embodies those 2 aspects in a very real way, both as the spirit and as what we are expected to do to create and embody that spirit. And I also like it because as a remembrance of our universalist heritage. Love was the spirit of our universalists at the very beginning, and it's a through line for our religion always.
Yay for universalism. Let's not forget the universalists, right? I thank you both for that. I'm going to tell you my favorite part is the graphic and love in the center, because I love that it reminds us that we're all interconnected. Everything affects everything, right? We're all connected, and everything comes from love. Thank you both for joining me in this exercise. Yeah, good job. Yeah. Yep, next week I'll be asking you up here one by one to quit. No, I won't. We are a covenanted community. This is how we agree to be with one another. That's why this is the important work that we need to be doing right now. I encourage you all to sit with the language, to see how it sits with you, to ask yourselves questions about it, and to be involved as we move forward with revisions to Article 2. Beloveds, namaste.
Each Sunday, we share our plate offerings with an organization that does work in the world aligned with our principles as a spiritual practice of generosity. We've just heard about generosity. This month's Share the Plate organization is the Multicultural Solidarity. Multicultural Solidarity Long Island, known as MCS, is a 501c3 organization which seeks to counter the racist social structure of separation on Long Island and instead work toward Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s beloved community. MCS was founded by UUFS members Doris and Joel Diamond almost 6 years ago. Joel lit our chalice this morning. It is an all-volunteer organization, including a 12-member board, which is 75% global majority. Its signature program, the Diversity Friendship Circles, which are similar to our sharing circles here, brings together people of different colors and backgrounds to talk to each other about race and other oppressions. It helps us all broaden and deepen our perspectives, build allyship, and work together toward transforming Long Island's racism, misogyny, homophobia, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, bigotry, all of it. In addition to the circles, they also do other more direct anti-racism work. One example is the recent webinars they had for Long Island's native tribes to voice their social justice concerns. Go to their Facebook page or their website for the schedule of friendship circles each month and try attending one. It is really a great experience. There's no fee for attending any of their programs, so they depend on donations and they need our support. So please give as generously as you can. If you're online with us, the link for online donations is in the chat now. And the offering here will be gratefully received at this time.
Beloveds, will you join me in dedicating our offering this morning? The words are in your order of service. To the work of our faith, which is weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives and these our offerings. Amen. Thank you. And now, I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join in singing hymn number 1014 in our teal hymnal, Answering the Call of Love. Now, you will notice that there are places where it says, standing on the side of love. See, after you turn the page, right here, up on the top of the fourth, but you can see that, right? Yeah, okay, where it says, standing on the side of love. Wherever it says that, we're going to sing answering the call of love, because we are meant to be using the updated language, and that is the official updated language. I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing. Remain standing. Beloveds, go knowing that we are bound by covenant, and in covenant we call ourselves back and call ourselves in and remain a beloved community. Go in peace, go in love, and go always in the footsteps of the holy. Amen. And now we extinguish our chalice flame. For our worship has ended, and our service begins.